all you freaks, geeks, and cinemaniacs. From the heart of Hollyweird, California, at the epicenter of all things eerie and awesome, it's time for Charles Band's Full Moon Freak Show.
Dudes, I have to put my glasses on and read this to you because it's so frickin' voluminous. My out-of-control amazing guest this week is a horror culture superstar who has literally done it all. She's an actor, writer, producer, performer, comedian, singer, entrepreneur, also an entrepreneur, and most recently a best-selling author. She's probably best known for her iconic horror host character Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, the undisputed Queen of Halloween. But today we have the honor, we have the honor of sitting down with her en natural. So please welcome the one and only Cassandra Peterson to the Freak Show.
Wow.
Ciao, Cassandra.
Oh, natural. I'm wearing clothes.
Well, you're a natural as Cassandra.
Oh, that's
true.
I
For people
thought you
who
meant
you
no
can't
clothes.
forget the Elvira thing.
And what's an entrepreneur?
It's my own word.
Okay.
Entrepreneur.
I'll do that.
You know, people can say they're an entrepreneur, but if they actually go out and do it and make it happen, then they're entrepreneurs.
Okay,
that's
I
in my
like that.
mind, because that's what you and I, many of the things we share in common.
You make up words too. I make up words all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
Cassandraski.
Like, huh?
Cassandraski.
Yes, thank you.
Now,
That's
since
a
we are-
Russian name I adopted
No,
when I
I'll
drink
tell you what's
many
funny.
brewskis.
I'll tell you what's funny about calling you or calling someone ski at the end is I have a distant memory in high school, since we were the same age, an awesome age.
Almost exactly this.
Yes, almost exactly. And I remember that one of my friends I would call Bradsky. And so I added that as well. I'm not sure where that comes from, if it was a movie or something that inspired us at the same time, because we literally had pretty much, I wouldn't say we had the same childhood because I was in Italy,
Yeah.
but, same era, same magic. So, okay, yeah, Cassandraski.
Yep, that's what I had. This friend. We worked at Don Kirshner's rock concert.
yes.
Right up the street here on Sunset Boulevard, and she worked in the office, and I was a PA there, just running around production, taking photos, doing makeup, doing
Right.
all kinds of things. And I don't know, she became Donna Ski, and I became Cassandra Ski, and I think it had to do with brewskis.
You think so?
Because I think.
I don't know, because
we
I
always
did
go
not
for
drink
brewski.
brewskis. I didn't drink beer. We sipped on vino.
Well,
in
you
Italy.
were in Italy.
I know, but I don't know where the ski thing happened. But I do want to say, yes, we said we're the same age. And
Parliamo italiano.
sì, io lo parlo bene, perché
Io
per
non
11
parlo
anni.
bene, ho
No, tu parli
dimenticato
bene.
quasi tutto.
No, because you spent a year or so in Italy.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
But I forgot practically everything.
No, you
so,
didn't. What you just said was not only well said, but you have a pretty good accent too, which is hard.
Thank you.
I'm lucky that I literally can pass off as an Italian. I have no accent in Italian, and that was the great thing to have growing up and
Yeah.
trying to pick up chicks, which I don't know how you say that anymore, but that's what we said back in the day. We didn't say hook up. That would be weird.
Pick up chicks, yeah.
Well, my friends were Italian, and we spoke Italian, and all they wanted to
great.
do is find and pick up, meet, and make out with, it was innocent days, American tourists or foreign tourists.
Yeah.
And those tourists wanted they wanted Italian men. That's what they were looking for.
Oh, that's what I was looking for.
So
over
I
there.
know you didn't want an American guy. So I
Hell no.
I dressed like them and I spoke Italian, and there were I shouldn't even say it's many occasions where we would get lucky, and maybe at the end of the day, maybe someone kissed one of the girls, maybe someone boobies, whatever. It was not very aggressive.
Sophisticated.
But at the end of those evenings, I was speaking like I'm speaking to you in English, since they were pretty much American English girls, and not once did anyone say, I thought you were an Italian guy, because in the beginning I spoke Italian. So
Yeah.
who knows what happens in the minds of young children.
Yeah, we don't know. We don't want to know.
So I do want to say that I had the best time flying home a few days ago from Rome. And I'll tell you why. I was a family vacation, and I flew Rome, Frankfurt, then the 11-hour flight from Frankfurt all the way back to LA. And I had the audio version of your book, and I binged the entire flight, which is because I'm really good at falling asleep, which you need to do. Maybe I doze off for an hour and I rewound, but I literally, your spirit so enveloped me, because that's all that matters here. When at the end of the day, we've all had these crazy experiences, but I had so much fun following your incredible escapades. For people who have not read this book, you've got to get it. You've got to buy it. You got to. No,
you.
I'm serious. It's
you.
so entertaining. It's a mind blower. It's a mind blower.
Thank you. I always tell people, they don't believe me. I always say, my life was really crazy until I finally became Elvira, and then things calmed down. And that's kind of what happened.
Well, you had I think, an amazing life. And Elvira happened when you were about 30, right?
30, exactly.
Okay. So you had, your crazy life began at 14, 15. And so did mine.
Moved out of my house.
So did mine. Yeah. I mean, I was not doing what you were doing because
go-go dancing.
I wasn't go-go dancing.
You weren't.
I don't have boobies. I couldn't do that. But we were both on a course at a very young age.
Yeah,
I totally relate to that, you know. Mm-hmm. And if people didn't know you in Italy, didn't know your career, and I had to come up with a title for your book, I would call it Avventurosa, which means the adventurous one, an adventurous, in your case, woman, an adventurous person, because you are. You know, throw caution to the wind, you know, and somehow that's in your spirit. I don't know if that comes from your parental units, you know.
Probably, you know. I thought a lot about that when I was writing my book. Where does that come from? You know, probably my dad, kind of crazy, kind of wild, and a risk taker.
Yeah.
I think I was a serious risk taker. I'm just lucky.
Well, first of all,
turn out in one piece.
You're lucky you're alive.
I am, very much.
Because I'm a risk taker, but I had my insane ups and downs in my business. I'm otherwise I didn't do anything you did. You know, I've never had a one-night stand. I never did drugs other than some pot. I was just focused on making movies my entire life, and that's what I'm still doing. Wow. But I've taken risk, and I've been this close to bankruptcy. I went to jail for a weekend. I had mad 40-odd years of being in this business.
Wow.
But at the end of the day, you're passionate and you believe in what you're doing. But your early history is like, I really think it's a miracle that you're alive.
I do too. I mean, I used to think nothing of like hopping in a car full of GIs hitchhiking to Denver.
It's unbelievable.
4 or 5 guys in a car. Yes, hop in.
No, but
I'm
as
14.
an underage
I'm like,
chick, you're topless and you're twirling your things and you're playing all these crazy places.
Driving all over, which I didn't even have a driver's license, to North Dakota and Wyoming and everything to go dance at like Holiday Inns, you know.
Great.
And
fantastic.
Oh Lord,
but it's all of that gave you this amazing character that then created your career as Elvira. Part of that you use. That's your up to 30. I mean, that's your life experience. But in a sense, your whole showbiz career, well, your showbiz began at 14, I guess, even when you were at the clubs. I mean, that's still show business.
Oh, it was definitely showbiz. I was completely supporting myself by dancing, paying my rent.
Wow.
And so I count that as show business.
It is. No, it is. I guess you're professional. When you hit your mark and you created Elvira, that's when your career became less of a madhouse.
And I started making money for the
first
time
which is
ever.
Really a good thing.
Yeah, it really is a good thing, I got to tell you.
I've also had moments when no money and, just on the verge of trouble. And you appreciate it when you can breathe and not worry about covering the rent. And then you got to live through that. And you got to live through, I hate to say it because I don't wish this on anyone, but my early experience, having almost died twice in third world countries, hospitals.
I read about that.
It just made everything look different. I mean, if you take a risk, and worst case, you lose money, you fail, maybe you get in trouble. Nothing compares to near death.
That's true. And if you read my book, and
you had the same experience.
I was burned as a child, and it was a very serious burn, 35% of my body, which most children at that time did not live through because the infection kills you. But I think in the long run it does make you appreciate your life and you live your life more. You kind of grab every
well, it puts things in perspective too. When people have problems and they're hysterical about something so trivial and stupid, it's like, I'll tell you what you really need to be worried about, not anything you're talking about right now. So you approach now. Your energy also it comes through the pages, it comes through your voice. I felt it. I don't know how to say this. I mean this in only a positive way. But after I finished reading it, I was really bleary-eyed because I always sleep, and I think I slept 1 hour. I had 1 hour left of the book, which I finished a few days ago. But I kind of hung out with you for 10 hours. I mean, it was intense. And I literally felt your spirit for the next 2-3 days. I would dream a bit about your escapades. think about the many things we have in common more than you would know. And I thought, wow, what a beautiful spirit you have. You know,
you.
no, I'm. You can watch all the other shows. I'm very complimentary. I have friends in the business. We all, done this long enough. But I just felt you have such a unique energy. And when I think about where you were born, Kansas, and your whole Colorado thing, and I know the way your mom treated you, which was challenging. But through all of that, and no money, and jumping out underage, doing crazy things, you got to ask yourself now that we're a little more mature, right? Because as I've told,
Well, I don't know about that.
No, we are. In Italy, they usually don't say you're older; they just say you're more mature.
Yeah.
If I have an older
Più maturo.
più maturo, brava Cassandra, ski. But whatever it is, you plowed through it, and you were dodging bullets every other day, it seems, and then I love, because you wrote it in your own words. Now, I was very lucky. My book, which came out recently, I had a wonderful biographer who's a wonderful writer. Now, I can tell stories, but he wrote and he captured my voice, a guy named Adam Felber, who for many years was the head writer on the Bill Maher show that I love watching.
Yeah,
Also, I put
too.
Bill in his first movie. It was called Cannibal Women in the Avocado Jungle of
I
Death.
know it well.
A bizarre
Believe
film.
me.
But
Adrian Barbeau.
yes, and Shannon Tweed.
Shannon Tweed,
And
that's
Gene
right. I
Simmons
know
kept
her very
visiting
well,
the
too.
set, all horny for Shannon, and then they marry, So there's all sorts of interesting history there. But I completely lost my trend of thought. More mature.
What was it? Let's see. We're more mature. I don't know about that.
See, we share that too. It's like,
Yeah,
wait a minute.
I was going to say, people keep, after they read my book, they keep calling me the female Forrest Gump, which, I don't know, I hope that's a compliment. I don't know, would you
Yeah.
take it as that? A lot of people like
No,
that.
but
So,
I was kidding around earlier about being an entrepreneur. We're in a world now where I think more people are aware they can break out of the mold. They can at least give it a shot, do something they want to do, because people are really brought up with thing in college, and this is what my parents want me to do, and then they're at age 40, they're unhappy, and they do something else. And I think more people also, because of the pandemic, are now thinking, well, maybe I should give this a shot.
Yeah,
and
I
I
think
encourage
so,
that,
too.
because if you don't do what you love, you're kind of screwed. You're
really
not
are.
going to be a happy human.
You find yourself at 50
you
or 60
followed your
going,
muse,
"What am I
your
doing?"
crazy muse, your entire life. You did.
Yeah, I did. I had this, I always tell people I had this plan that somebody read me, I think it was my art teacher, that poem by Robert Frost about going through the woods and seeing two paths,
Right,
and
right. Oh, yes,
so
yes.
I
Right.
made this pact with myself that if I had a decision between two things, I was going to take the one that was harder,
Okay.
the more difficult one, and that just became my way of choosing what I'm going to do. Like, just take the hard road and see how it goes, because the easy road doesn't get you anywhere, really.
But you also, I mean, again, my memory's pretty good, but you've also had so many passionate relationships in those early years.
Yeah.
And that was the point I was going to make before. I thank God it flew back in my head. You wrote the book, unlike me, in your own words. You wrote your book.
Yeah.
Right, because I had someone who helped me who
Yes,
wrote it.
but I read a chapter, and it really makes me want to read your book.
Oh, well, thank
So,
you. Yeah, I'm. Oh, wait a
I'm
minute.
looking for. Hey, that's how I get free
Look at
fame.
this. Confessions.
Fantastic.
And I wrote. I was going to
Will
do it
you
in
sign
Italian.
it? You
I
signed
said,
it to
"Ciao,
me already?
Cassandra," with much affection. So this is the book.
Grazie.
But I did have someone write for me and tell my stories in prose.
Yeah, but your stories are really
You
interesting.
wrote your own book.
I
and
did.
your voice it's so your voice. So first of all, I mean, just a couple things that really amuse me. One is every time you had a relationship, and there were many, you described each one as being the most amazing, the most awesome, passionate, never before in my life. My eyes blew up, my boobies fell off. Each one was almost the same of all these characters. And then you went to Italy, knowing nothing about the country with basically no money.
Yeah.
You got to talk about that and talk about that abandoned place you stayed in, which is so dangerous. That's called the periferia. I know where you were. It's a real
you?
scary place.
Ooh.
And
I
a
had no
miracle
idea
you're
that it was
alive,
like
but you
that.
had those big 3 black dudes who were sort of your protectors, right?
Yes, I mean from the Maasai tribe, and they had all these
This is unbelievable.
there's like bumps all over their face in patterns and stuff.
Yeah, I know
And
exactly
they
what
were
you're talking about.
hugely tall. And next door to my apartment, I had no lock on the door because I was just squatting there.
I have to. I don't want you. This is people won't believe this. Okay, so imagine like the projects or some place in your worst imagination.
It was awful, man.
You know,
I had
almost
no idea
like
that was in Rome.
things that
I
are
didn't know.
well, yeah. Every city has its.
Yeah, I
It's
guess.
you know not very visible, but once you're there, it's alarming. And Cassandra, at a very young age, what 17 or 19 or
By
some
then,
teen.
Yeah, by then I was about 19.
19. You're literally in a shell of an apartment that had nothing but a mattress,
Yep.
no locks on the door, nothing because you weren't
No
renting
electricity.
it. You just found a place to crash.
Yeah.
And
It had running water. That was fantastic.
Miracolo.
Yeah, I know it was.
And next door were these big dudes who became friendly and helped you because that's a recipe for disaster. I can't even
Yes,
believe it.
I know. Believe me, I was constantly running away from someone or other. But these guys kind of became my protectors. They watched my apartment for me. They made sure that I was. I had food. They'd bring me over food that they would cook and everything.
That's unbelievable.
I lucked out, right? Can you imagine that happening today? Would you want your 19-year-old daughter, if you had one, to be in that situation?
I wouldn't want my
to.
40-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
The whole thing is mad. But, you have the spirit. You had that drive. You were sort of invincible. And we all feel that way, but you proved it because, again, I don't want to recite your book. People should go buy the frickin' book because it is so amazing, all the stuff before. Now, once we hit 1980 or 81 and Elvira, I sort of followed what you were doing. Our paths have crossed, which we'll talk about in a minute.
Yeah.
But I had no awareness of that early life, which was in many cases,
nobody does.
it's
I
a
don't
full
think.
life.
Yeah.
Even though you turn the corner with Elvira around age 30, I mean, those early years all over the place, Vegas, the stuff in Vegas, banging around with all these dudes and Elvis and your Tom Jones story. And it's unbelievable. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable.
I just saw the Elvis movie, by the way.
How
that
is it? I
Baz
hear it's
Luhrmann
good.
did. Fantastic.
Oh,
and I am
good.
very picky because
Yes.
knowing Elvis,
Yes.
I really didn't want to see him get,
Yeah.
slaughtered on
Right.
TV
I'm
or
glad.
movies.
And
This is so wonderful, and you get why he ended up the way he did,
Yeah,
and his
terrible.
relationship with Tom Parker, the Colonel. It was
Yeah.
a very bad man, and it's just a fantastic movie, and the actor who portrays him is brilliant. I
Wow.
mean, couldn't get over it. I cannot wait to go see it again.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, if you ever liked Elvis or were interested,
I did.
in
My,
it, it's
much like
wonderful.
you, although you had the Elvis thing, we shared the same timeline. So for me, it was all about the Beatles. It was that
Yeah,
age of
me
innocence,
too.
the 60s. And of course, I was lucky enough to live in Rome. My folks who were great, my dad was a film producer and director, and he took us at the height of that whole Paisley movement. And,
Yeah, wow.
I didn't see, I saw the Beatles. I saw them in
You
Italy.
did? I
Yes,
never
they,
got
they,
to see
they
them.
came to Rome in, I guess, 67. And they played a relatively small venue. It was like 3,000 people. It was a theater. It wasn't like
wow.
a big.
Yeah, like
They
20
were on and off the stage in probably 35 minutes. The opening band was a well-known Italian band. I forget their name right now. Of course, the place was pandemonium, and this
Yeah,
was
I bet.
3,000. It was a big theater in Rome. And when the Beatles came out, and I don't know how to say this politely, there was a couple girls near us who literally were having orgasms. This wasn't like
I believe it.
for real orgasms, and it was just, and you could hear them, unlike a lot of their shows that you couldn't hear. Apparently, people have been to Shea Stadium because they came with those little amps, and there's 30,000 people screaming.
Yeah.
It was a mind blower. And but my parents took us to London. I was very lucky to go to a Jimi Hendrix concert, which you did too.
I went to
Yours
that
ended
concert.
badly, unfortunately, right?
Yeah, kind of good,
ish.
kind of bad. Oh, I was going to tell you one funny thing. I was talking to Rob Zombie the other day,
Right.
and we were talking about the Beatles at Shea Stadium.
Yes.
They literally showed up he said, in a station wagon. They jumped out. They had their speakers with them.
Right.
They carried them like suitcases.
Yeah.
Set them on the stage, and they hooked the speakers into the,
PA
the
system.
sound system that was like,
Right.
next game up, the batter
Yeah,
will be,
yeah.
like
That's
that.
all they had.
And that is all they had
all
at
they
Shea
had.
Stadium. And of course, nobody heard a single word of what they were singing because
no.
everybody was screaming. And the Beatles were very kind of disappointed in that.
Yes.
But that's how
But
they
they
were
had a super tight
rolling
set.
back
So,
then,
I mean,
you
it was
know?
like, I mean, they're so good as a band, aside
Yeah.
from the endless
It's my
talent.
one giant regret in life that I never got to see them, because every time I was having this go on one
Right.
place, they were playing somewhere
Right.
else. I'd go
Right.
here, they were somewhere else.
Yeah.
It just never. I did meet them all finally,
Oh,
except for John
wow.
Lennon, which is my
What a
my
that was
second
just,
greatest regret, because he was my favorite.
That was just, couldn't stop crying for all year in 1980.
Yeah.
But rewinding for a minute,
too.
so the 60s, we shared the that age of innocence and love, and I was like you, I protested the war. I mean, all that was happening, and I had early relationships with the few women I'd been with, so it was all amazing. Once the 70s hit, things got a little darker and more ugly in my mind. The music turned.
Yeah, me too.
But the Beatles, it was pretty much everything for me. So I didn't really have the Elvis thing. I liked a lot of his music, but a similar story to yours. When I came back to the States, 1970, 71, I somehow, for a brief period of time,
That's when I was going to Italy.
I know.
Yeah.
We missed each
crossed
other, but same
paths.
timeline.
Yeah.
I went to Vegas for some reason 6 or 7 times. I missed you there too, more or less.
You were there when I was.
But I went there frequently. I guess I was for a moment a gambler. Then I didn't like that whole thing. But I was there
That's
a bunch.
good.
Oh, I know.
That was a good decision.
Yeah. But my story is that every time I would go over the course of a year or so, Elvis was playing. And I would literally go, I got to go see him, but he'll be here. He's always in Vegas. He's always in Vegas. And then shortly thereafter, he died. So I never got to see Elvis, which would have been a lot of fun. But the Beatles and then Pink Floyd. I've seen every Pink Floyd concert forever.
I've seen a lot of
from
Pink Floyd
Pompeii
concerts, too.
to when they split up and Roger Waters and the whole thing and Adam Hart Mother. And anyway, get on a sidetrack.
I spent a lot of time going to concerts.
But you're, way more than me. You're like a groupie.
I was, kind of.
You were like a super groupie, you were. And you managed, I don't want to keep talking about your book, but it's so fascinating to me. Again, fearless, aventurosa. You just managed to get into their rooms and sometimes into their, and the thing and the thing and the thing. It's unbelievable.
I just, I'm very proud of that time, really. I was just reading an article this guy wrote. He writes an article, Rolling Stone, about books and music and everything. And he talked about how he thought that my portrayal of the 60s and bands was the best one he's ever read.
And
I was very impressed, coming from
it was
this,
dead on, especially
critic.
from the point of view of a soon-to-be, even then, an entertainer. You were entertaining.
Yeah.
You were doing
I was a
your
showgirl.
you were a showgirl. So
well, I hadn't quite been a showgirl. I was still a go-go dancer.
you were a go-go
when I was
dancer,
chasing
twirling
bands
your
around.
thingies, and
Yes.
then you were a showgirl, sort of a groupie chick.
Yeah.
With incredible experiences, and you lived to tell the story.
I know.
And you also pulled yourself out of the whole drug scene, which to me was frightening. I never did that. I imagine we're same age. In the 60s, it was more about hashish and weed. And I tried it. I thought, I'm blessed with a crazy brain. I'm very much like you. My energy's always off the top. I had all sorts of plans. And I just didn't want to mess anything up. I felt like maybe I'll take something or take a mushroom.
Yeah, I could.
And then I had a few friends who went from being a certain energy and a certain amount and to kind of just becoming like deadheads. And I thought,
Wow.
I don't want to do that to myself. And then I came back to the States, it got worse, and then cocaine was everywhere.
Yeah, that was.
That's all right.
The acid thing, though, LSD. I say in my book, and I don't know if this is a good thing to say, but I honestly think that two things that changed my whole life and made me kind of wake up were dropping acid.
Really? Okay.
And going to Europe. When I was in my senior year of high school,
Yes,
first I went there
yes.
just for a couple weeks. And it just was like, mind expanding, literally.
Yeah.
I just, like, things opened up. I was like, I can't stay in Colorado. I can't do that, I have to get out there and live my life. I mean,
No,
really,
that's your spirit, and you did that, and you were fearless, and then you probably have not done a lot of acid recently because you probably
not
have.
in a long time, not since the 60s.
Well, there you go.
I wouldn't mind doing it again, though, with somebody who kind of walks me through it, with supervision, not just like taking it out of a nightclub and laying on the railroad tracks. Not
You
kind of
did that.
Huh?
You did that.
Yeah, I went out
You did
to the
all
club.
that.
I took too much acid, enough for 6 people, unfortunately. I was supposed to break it into the parts, and I took the whole thing. And then a friend found me laying on railroad tracks out
Yes.
behind a club, which is such
And that's
a bad
one of the many reasons why I
place to
never
rest.
took acid, because my
Yeah.
friends at that time, who were all very immature, I was kind of more mature. I mean, I opened a nightclub at age 15.
Yeah, that was
literally,
hilarious. I read
literally.
that part in your
But
book.
my friends,
That
they
was
just wanted to
crazy.
get high and fuck around
Yeah,
and
yeah.
get high and more high. And some of them took acid, and they were found in the park. And the parents, all of it sounded like, ooh, I don't want to go there.
Yeah.
So
no,
I didn't.
unfortunately, both of my sisters who were younger got into drugs same time I did. I mean, it was the 60s, and
Yeah.
everybody was doing it, and they never got out of
I
drugs.
know.
They never, and
I
both
read
of
that.
them died. One of a drug overdose and one alcohol overdose. Really.
I don't like talking about
So-
it, but I can't not say it. We have a wonderful family. I have 4 kids. I had 4 kids. They're all adults, and my son died about a year ago. Lost a 12-year battle with addiction,
Oh, God,
and the
Jesus.
family was there with him and for him,
I'm so
and in and
sorry.
out of facilities, and
So hard, so hard.
no pain is greater. And I've been through a lot. I got a thick skin, and
couldn't.
that was.
No.
And what it did it really was he was on the mend and doing well and going to college, and then COVID happened, and his support groups, everything that he was doing to keep, they all disappeared, and that's
my
ultimately
God.
what did it. So it's a
I
horrible
couldn't,
loss.
Couldn't deal with that. I mean,
Yes.
and I know, I'm sure you tried everything you could. I did with my
Everything.
sisters. I sent my sisters to rehab so many times. I loaned them money. I did everything.
I
you
did
know,
everything.
People, they were on the street, both of them, for a while. They were homeless, and
Jesus.
I had people say, "Oh, well, you're wealthy. Why can't you do anything to help your sisters? Look, they're just, on the street." So I go, "You have no idea
Right.
what I've tried to do. It doesn't
Yeah.
work.
No,
it doesn't work.
We're not ready.
I mean, sometimes it works. My
we
niece
don't-
and nephew
we don't
came
have the
back
tools,
from
you
the
know.
edge.
There was a
Yep.
time when I was praying for him to be arrested, because in jail he
Yeah.
would have been safe.
I was always
would have
happy
been-
when one of my sisters was in jail.
terrible
I
thing
could
to say,
sleep at
yeah.
night.
Yeah.
I really could.
We could spend an hour about this.
Yeah,
and
ugh,
it's
too
incredible. It's
depressing.
incredible. Well, but it's,
I'm so sorry. I can't even tell you.
Yeah,
I
it's
couldn't handle that.
and you have 2 sisters who are no longer here because of that. So anyway, going back to the beautiful
Yes,
60s.
let's go back to the
I
fun part.
avoided all
Oh.
that, but it was a magical time to be alive. And you experienced the same magic. I mean, I was in Rome. I was in a different world, but same thing. Young girl, everything was flowers and challenging, and you were just doing your thing, and your thing was really crazy.
It was.
It's like, I mean,
And I
today,
decided I was
imagine
gonna-
being 14 or 15 and like showing your boobies and working underage in a club.
No.
How does that happen?
If I thought about my child doing that, I'd lose my mind.
Right.
Can you imagine?
Right. Exactly.
But it was a really exciting time in Rome. It was a
Yeah.
great time. It was kind of
Ugh.
Via Veneto was the big place to go, and
La
there
Dolce
was
Vita.
club
That started in the
Numero
50s.
Uno.
Yeah.
Did you ever hear
Yes.
of that club?
And Yellow.
Oh, Yellow Club
I've
Yellow.
been
Did
there.
you?
Yes.
You're kidding. Oh my God.
When I read
Club
your book, it's
Giallo.
like,
Yeah. Oh,
porco dio. I just think this is freaking amazing, because we were
you do
literally
it.
crossing over there at those places.
Oh my God.
It was really Italy's caught up a lot, but back in the 60s and maybe up to the early 70s, Italy was like in the 50s.
It was more like
and I mean, my
classy
Italian friends, the routine of their parents. I mean, the father usually would be the one going out, the lawyer or a doctor working. Imagine this happening today. They would come home at 1. Let's say it's Tuesday.
Yeah.
Come home at 1. A beautiful meal
Giant
prepared.
dinner.
Then a siesta, a nice
Take a
nap. Then
all
at
the
4
stores were closed, and I mean
and-
closed.
and they're still closed.
Everything.
Unless
Yeah.
you're a tourist and you're in the little touristy area,
Yeah,
everything
they're
shuts down.
closed, right.
Then that fellow or woman, but it was usually a guy, would get
Mm-hmm.
back in their car, drive to their office, and work till about 8. They literally had 2 commutes because in the middle of the day it was all about family and having dinner. And then,
Pranzo.
God forbid, you made any noise as a little kid running around to wake up Signore, whoever the hell it
Yeah.
was. Very different
I remember
world.
that. And then Ferragosto comes along, and
Oh,
there's
yes.
not a single person in the whole city, and everything is closed. And
Which
you're
is- still
I was there
happens.
going, what? What happened? I didn't
Still
get
happens.
it.
Still
Yeah.
happens.
I've been back to Rome. The last time I was there was a while ago, and a lot of the magic is gone, sadly, for me. I mean, I love Italy. I
Right.
love it, but Rome just seems so overtaken by tourists and so kind of
What time of year
dirty
was
and-
it?
Yeah, it was in the middle of summer,
Yeah.
so bad time.
So July, August, a bummer. You go in September, October. The
Yeah.
beautiful thing about
if I could ever go anywhere in September and October,
yes,
other than work,
other than work.
yeah.
But
That's my, you know.
the amazing thing about Rome, which people can't relate to, other than the majesty of the city and the history and the food and the vibe, putting all that aside, is, you know, I grew up there, and there's not a cobblestone out of place. There's no buildings torn down. There's no, you know, the arches. There's no, it's Rome the way I grew up as a child, you know, and there's something, I mean, they won't even let McDonald's build a building there. They have McDonald's, and, you know, it's in an old building, it'll have a golden arch. But they are, you know, Rome is built on Rome, and what's underneath Rome is mind-boggling. They're beginning to discover more things and build these.
I went to Trastevere one time, and a guy in the restaurant showed us down below was another layer of Rome, and down below that was another layer of Rome, and down below that, and it just kept going.
Kept going. And they're discovering more. Now there's little places where you can go, and you can spend a few euros, and then you go and you can kind of see it. But that's in 2 minutes or less the story of this nightclub I opened, because I rented a cantina, which was underground, right? For no money, and I fixed it up, and it was a private club. I thought I could get away with it.
Down,
well, then as we cleaned it up, there was a bricked up door, and I asked the owner. He said, "Well, you be careful, but of course below that's another room." So we took the bricks out, hauled out all sorts of garbage, and we had another room free. So that was the super extra special makeout room.
Crazy.
There was no air down there at all. It was all about making out.
Yeah, of course.
At that age, it was making out and kissing and boobies and slow dancing and. Anyway, I won't get into my story, but your adventure.
Mine sounds similar.
But times 1,000. Your book is just unbelievable. It's like your book, your history, your early days. We'll hit Elvira in a minute.
Oh, you know what they called me in Rome? All the guys, a casa.
A casa.
A casa. I'm a cafe.
Yes, that's a casa.
Does that kind of ring a bell?
Casa is just abbreviated Cassandra.
Yeah,
and they do that all the time.
That's my name, Cassandra. So they would call up. I was in a little pensione above a little coffee shop, and in the morning the guys would
those
call
all
up,
your suitors?
This
kind
of
vibe.
Jew.
That's exactly right.
So funny. Oh, I love it there. I love it.
Well, you got to go back not during the tourist season.
Yeah,
go back any other time.
Yeah, I mean, I hate going. The last time I went to Venice was in the summer. What a nightmare!
Never in the summer.
I've been to Venice like every season, and
right.
The fall there and the spring were so fantastic. But of course, now I can't go in the fall anymore because I'm working.
I want to get back in the show business because we could talk for hours about Italy.
We could.
People
go to sleep.
No, they go to sleep. But the clubs and the nightlife there and the crazy Italians and pinching your culo. And,
oh, yeah, my God.
I mean, because you were there again. People have wised up in the Me Too thing. But, you know, you got to look back at where history was and how men behaved with women. And the Italian guy was usually pretty... it was benign, but there was a lot of pinching and grabbing going on.
Grabbing your butt and everything.
All the time. And you kind of wanted it, too. You'd be bummed out if they didn't give you that attention. Now, that is not happening too much anymore.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Now, you know, the pendulum swings. Now men are afraid to talk to women. I mean, now we're in a completely different world.
Yeah, they end up getting
But
sued.
Rome in the 60s, it was just a madness, especially if you went to those clubs.
Yep. Oh, I did. I didn't know
how you did
Isabella
it by yourself.
Rossellini there
at
that club one time, and her boyfriend, and they were wild. Wow, I'll tell you. Anyway, I won't go on.
Speaking of wild, this conversation is about to go into some seriously weird and wild and really unexpected places. So let's take a break for a moment to catch our breath, and we'll reconvene next week when we talk more to the illustrious Cassandra Peterson.